Yes, how are we all? I hope all is well. My name is Sachin, and this is the Total Cricket Podcast, episode 27. Today, I'm going to be reviewing the second ODI between Sri Lanka and India, so let's get right into it. Now, this was a very good game of cricket. It was good to see Sri Lanka put up a real fight, but in the end, India were able to grind out the win by 3 wickets on the Duckworth-Lewis method. And I will start with the team news. Sri Lanka, it's a very unsettled team at the moment. They made 3 changes, which saw Milinda Siriwardena, Akila Dhananjaya, and Dushmantha Chamira come in for Tissara Pereira, Wanindu Hasaranga, and Lakshan Sandakan. And for India, they were unchanged after that comfortable victory in the first game. Now, into the recap of the game, and once again, India won the toss and they elected to field. It's worked a charm, really, in this series so far. The conventional wisdom in Sri Lanka is to bat first, but really, under the lights, it has become a bit easier for batting the ball coming onto the bat, a lot better than it has in the day. So, certainly, India have been vindicated in those decisions. And Sri Lanka, in their innings, they once again were under par, 236, 4-8 in their 50 overs. And once again, the story was a lot of starts, but no one going on to make a really big contribution. There were starts for Niroshan Dikvella with 31, also Danushka Gunatilaka and Kusal Mendis, 19 apiece, Angelo Matthews, 20. But then Belinda Siriwardena and Chamara Kapagedera put on a really nice stand for the 6th wicket. They put on 91, and Belinda Siriwardena got 58, Kapagedera got 40, and that managed to get Sri Lanka to that total of 236. India's bowling, Jasprit Bumrah was the pick of the bowlers. He picked up 4 for 43. Yuzvendra Chahal, he got 2 for 43. Hardik Pandya, 1 for 24, and he was unable to complete his spell as he pulled up with an injury. Akshar Patel, very economical, 1 for 30 in his overs, and Kedar Jadhav had to bowl the remainder of Pandya's quota, and he was on the expensive side. Bhuvaneshwar Kumar for the second game of the series going wicketless. India's batting, well, it looked like it was going to be an absolute canter. Rohit Sharma and Shikhar Dhawan putting on 109 for the first wicket. Rohit Sharma getting 54, Shikhar Dhawan 49, but then an outrageous collapse. They lost 7 wickets for 22, India, to see them slump to 131 for 7. And that's when Mahendra Singh Dhoni and Bhuvaneshwar Kumar came together and put on 100 runs for the 8th wicket to guide India home. It was a fantastic partnership and the end of a topsy-turvy game. For most of it looked like India would win in a canter. Then all of a sudden it looked like Sri Lanka would win in a canter. But then those two, slowly but surely, were able to get India over the line. And for Sri Lanka's bowlers, again, not a lot to cheer about with one obvious exception. Akila Dhananjaya, 6 for 54. Incredible spell of bowling coming back into the team. He took his first 5 wickets in the space of 13 balls. Absolutely mesmerizing spell from him. He got able support from Milinda Siriwardena. He bowled his 10 overs, 1 for 39. But the rest of the bowlers didn't quite back him up. The fast bowlers were expensive and wicketless. Malinga, Vishwa Fernando, and Dushmantha Chamira all going for over 5 and over and unable to take a wicket. Now let's get into the breakdown, and I will start with Sri Lanka. And the batting for Sri Lanka, as I said, a familiar tale of batsmen just not going on. You need someone to make a big 100 to get these scores of 280, 300 that you need to be a really top one-day team. And once again, Sri Lanka were found wanting in that regard. Niroshan Dikvella got an enterprising 31 off 24 deliveries. I must say that with Dikvella, he gets a start in every innings. We've seen in this whole tour by India, he got a start in virtually every innings he's played, but he hasn't been able to go on and get a big score. And for me, with Dikvella, I love his intent with his batting. I love the way he maneuvers the field, the way he moves around his crease, but his game is so high risk that it makes it very difficult for him to really go on and get a substantial contribution. I think he needs to find a middle ground where he just curbs that risk a little bit while still maintaining that intent that he does have if he wants to go to the next level as a batsman. But even with that being said, he's had a great start to his ODI career. He averages well over 40, and he's only played 20 games. So obviously for Dick Vell, a very talented player, but a little bit of refinement needed. And I think the same can be said about Danushka Gunatilaka, a laboured innings. This was the team of a lot of Sri Lankan batsmen in this innings, 19 off 37. The thing about Gunatilaka is that he is a bit of a flat track bully. He loves the ball coming onto the bat, plays really nicely on the up, but we've seen him struggle to maneuver the field, to rotate the strike, and against spin, he usually gets out to spin. And that's a big issue for Gunatilaka. I think that he needs to add that nuance to his game if he's going to, again, go to the next level. Obviously, clear talent in the strokes that he plays, but his game is lacking that nuance, that roundedness to his game that is needed if he's going to go from averaging low 30s to high 30s or even 40. So that's that for Gunatilaka. And similarly, Kusal Mendes struggled 19 of 48. Now, Kusal Mendes is usually one of the batsmen in the Sri Lankan lineup that you can trust not to get bogged down, but he got himself into a real hole here, and obviously he perished. LBW to Yuzvendra Chahal. That was really just frustration. I felt the ball wasn't quite there. Went for his favourite sweep shot, and he was plumb in front. Wasted a review as well. That was really a very poor review from Kusal Mendes. But the thing for him was that he again was unable to rotate the strike, and there was a lot of nice shots that went straight to the fielder. And I think something that Kusal Mendes is guilty of, particularly against the fast bowlers, it'll just be a straight ball on a decent length, and he'll just dead bat it straight back. I think he can do more with those deliveries, try and maneuver them to get a single. I feel like he's limiting himself in the balls that he can score off by doing that. So hopefully that's something that Mendes can improve on again for him to be a more consistent player. Gunatilaka, obviously, as I said, I didn't mention his dismissal. As I said, not the strongest against spin, and he was stumped off Yuzvendra Chahal. And Niroshan Dikvella, it was a really nice delivery from Jasprit Bumrah, followed him, and he just chipped it straight to Shikhar Dhawan. So really, you can see the pattern that the batsmen are really falling to very archetypal dismissals, you could say. And the same can be said for Upul Taranga. This was a classic Upul Taranga innings. It was a microcosm for his career. Some lovely shots he played, but then of Hardik Pandya, a poke outside off stump, a nothing shot, and Kohli did the rest. Now, Upul Taranga is not a number 4 batsman. I think that's pretty clear. Again, he's someone who's not strong against spin. He likes the ball coming onto the bat. It helps him as well start his innings when there's just the 2 men out. And Sri Lanka's got a real issue here in terms of the balance of the team. They've got 3 openers in the 11, but obviously there's only 2 opening slots. And the other thing is that they don't have a real plethora of middle order batsmen, especially when Asela Gunaratne is injured. So it's a big issue there, what to do with Taranga in the batting lineup. And again, as I've been going on about throughout this tour, Sri Lanka having captains like Chandimal and Taranga who haven't really been performing to any kind of level that you would hope from a captain puts a lot of pressure on the team. When you're already kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel for captaincy, the question becomes, what if they fail? Then who do you go to? Where are the other options? And I think some of the news that transpired after this game certainly brings that point home, but I will get to that shortly. Now, Angelo Matthews, once again, he looks a shell of his former self. He just looks like a beaten man, Angelo Matthews. He struggled again, 20 of 41, until he was also LBW to Akshar Patel. Matthews, at the end of the day, hasn't got an international century in 2 years. He simply has not performed to the standard that you would expect from your most experienced and best batsman. So this is one of the big issues that Sri Lanka have had over the past 2 years, that really they're a team that is struggling, and when your best batsman is also completely out of touch, that really puts a lot of pressure on the other batsmen. So certainly Angelo Matthews was really a big issue for Sri Lanka. Now, Milinda Siriwardene, he came back into the team, and he came back with a bang. Runner ball 58 he made to really resurrect the innings, at least get to a respectable total. And Milinda Siriwardena is an interesting case. He's a guy who, okay, he's got a loose technique. There's no doubt about it. He doesn't have a lot of restraint when he's playing his shots. But the thing about Siriwardena is that he's a beautiful stroke maker. He times the ball so well. He can hit sixes as well. And when you compare him to Tissera Pereira, Siriwardena averages 28, Tissera Pereira averages 18. Obviously, that is a lot better. And not to mention that Siriwardena hasn't been given anywhere near the amount of opportunities that Tissera Pereira has been afforded. So I think that Sri Lanka need to give Siriwardena a go here. He's another one that has been really ruthlessly dealt with. One bad performance and you're out of the team, while guys like Tissera Pereira get chance after chance. Hopefully the selectors can learn from their mistakes and give Siriwardena a go in the team. Now, Chamara Kapagedera. Well, he again was laboured in his 40 off 61, but I do give him credit for sticking around there and building that partnership with Siriwardena because at the end of the day, if those two didn't do anything, Sri Lanka were going to be bowled out for 150. So I do give him credit for that. But again, Kapagedera just had no timing in this innings. There was no fluency, and eventually he was clean bowled by an absolute ripper of a Yorker from Jasprit Bumrah. I can't criticize him for that. That was just a wonderful delivery. But really, with Kapagedera, we have to look at the bigger picture. This was his 100th ODI. How he has been given 100 opportunities in this team when he averages below 22 and has never scored a century is really daylight robbery. It's unbelievable how he's still around Kapagedera. He's never proven himself at this level. And incredibly, he will captain Sri Lanka in the next two ODIs due to the fact that Upul Taranga has been suspended for slow over. This is the second time in only a few months that Upul Taranga has fallen victim to suspension. If you remember, he was suspended for the last two group games of the Champions Trophy for the same offence. And now again, he's suspended. So amazingly, as I said before, when you're already scraping the bottom of the barrel with guys like Taranga, who's the next in line? And this is the answer. Chamara Kapagedera, a guy who really does not deserve a place in the team. And this has been my concern with the Sri Lankan captaincy situation, that it looks destined to end in complete disaster. But anyway, that is pretty much the batting for Sri Lanka. One other thing I want to point out about in the batting, is that the 7, 8, 9 should be power hitters, guys who are able to get big runs late in the innings. Sri Lanka don't possess those types of players, and it's one of the reasons why they've been left behind as one-day cricket has evolved in the last few years. Look at India's team. They have Hardik Pandya at 7, Akshar Patel at 8, and Bhuvneshwar Kumar at 9. These are all guys who can score runs. Sri Lanka have such a long tail. Their number 8, Akila Dhananjaya, really is not a guy who's going to get you a big strike rate, 30, 40 off 20 deliveries, say, for example. He's just not capable of that. And this is the issue, looking at the bigger picture for Sri Lanka, is that their bowlers really can't bat very well. It's just a trend throughout Sri Lankan cricket. But the worldwide trend is that bowlers now need to be able to at least hit a few sixes. So that is another issue for Sri Lanka, and I can't see it being fixed anytime soon because, as I said, it's such a deep-rooted issue within the system. But now, looking at the Indian bowling, and Bhuvneshwar Kumar again struggled a little bit. 53 runs he conceded, didn't take a wicket. I think that he strayed a little bit in his line, I thought, and he just wasn't quite there. Bowled some wides. Yes, he did bowl 32 dot balls, but there were those 4 balls that he bowled, and he hasn't quite been at his best with the ball in this series so far. I think the issue, obviously, the pitches haven't had that much in for him, but I think the issue has been that he hasn't quite had the usual control that he has to his bowling. So hopefully the confidence he gains from his batting can go into his bowling for the next game. Jasprit Bumrah, this was a wonderful spell of bowling from Jasprit Bumrah. 4 for 43. The way he bowled, particularly at the death, was unbelievable. How he changed it up with fantastic slower balls. His Yorker, just deadly. The bouncer as well. It had everything. He, at his best, is arguably the best death bowler in ODI cricket. And The thing about Bumrah is he's still so new to the international stage. What I want to see from him in the future is this type of performance replicated more often. If he can get more consistency into his game, then watch out because he is a fantastic talent, has all the tools to succeed at this level. Now, Yuzvendra Chahal, he bowled a lot better in this game, I thought, than the first game. His control was really good, I thought, for the most part, obviously. He did take a little bit of tap from Upul Taranga in one over, but apart from that, he was pretty miserly. And what I liked about his bowling today, particularly, was that he wasn't afraid to keep bowling his delivery. He's a guy who doesn't really have a googly, so really what you're getting is a bit of a bowling machine. And I think that that is an issue for him, that against better teams, because he doesn't have a lot of variation in his bowling, that's going to be something that batsmen pick on. But I liked how he had the confidence in his stock delivery and just kept bowling it, putting it on that coin, basically, on that spot, and he was rewarded with 2 wickets. That's the kind of confidence that you get playing in a winning team under a guy like Kohli, who I'm sure fills his players with a lot of confidence. And it was great to see the leggy doing well because, again, he doesn't spin the ball a lot. He doesn't have the variation, but he has still been successful in his short international career by just doing what he does, bowling to his strengths. And I think that's always a great thing. Hardik Pandya got the wicket of Upul Taranga, bowled pretty decently, Hardik, but I think the big thing was that he was in the wars today. He had a little bit of a problem with his wrist after diving for a ball on the boundary early in the game, but he got over that, and then he pulled up lame halfway through his sixth over and could not finish his spell. So that was a bit of a blow for India as they had to go to Kedar Jadhav, who got smashed around a bit for just under 7 runs and over. But no doubt, I don't think it's a big thing for Hardik Pandya. Just looked like a little bit of a limp, and hopefully for India, he does get fit for the next game because he's a big part of their team. Akshar Patel again was excellent. He bowled his 10 overs just for the 30 runs and also picked up the prized wicket of Angelo Matthews. And once again, Akshar Patel, miserly. He's tall, he's accurate, he bowls flat. Very difficult to get away, particularly when you're on the back foot as a batting team. I like what Akshar Patel does bring with the ball. So I think India will be really happy so far with the two newer spinners' performances in this series so far. Yuzvendra Chahal and Akshar Patel have done a good job so far. And hopefully we see Kuldeep Yadav given a go in the remaining few games, especially if they wrap up the series in the next game. So that's it for India's bowling. And now into really what was the business end of the match, India's batting innings. This looked like an absolute walk in the park for India at one point. You saw that fantastic opening partnership between Rohit Sharma and Shikhar Dhawan, but then the wheels came off. Rohit Sharma didn't read the leg spinner from Akila Dhananjaya. That's why he fell prey to him. It's very difficult to analyze a lot of these dismissals for the Indian batsmen because they just simply didn't pick Dhananjaya. I think if I had to use a blanket statement, they just were completely bamboozled and they just simply couldn't pick him. That's all I can say about it. But he did play some lovely shots, Rohit Sharma. It was incredibly his fastest ODI 50 off 43 balls. You would have thought that he would have a faster 50, but then you do kind of realize that he is a pretty slow starter usually, Rohit Sharma. But that was quite interesting, I thought. Shikhar Dhawan missed out on a 50. He top-edged one from Milinda Siriwardene that bounced a bit more, spun a bit more than he would have expected. And by the way, what an amazing catch from Angelo Matthews that was. Rare to see that kind of athleticism from Angelo Matthews, but that's at least a positive for Sri Lanka that he's moving freely given all his injury issues in the past. KL Rahul getting his first innings of the series, sorry. And well, he just didn't pick the wrong one from Dhananjaya, and he was clean bowled at a very short stay at the crease. Can't read too much into it. Kedar Jadhav, again, he didn't read the wrong one from Dhananjaya. Clean bowled for one. Kedar Jadhav, interestingly, he averages over 50 in his short one-day career, but if you remember the shot that he played to his second ball in this innings, it was just a hoik, and he really should have been caught, got a leading edge, and Vishwa Fernando just stopped when he really should have been able to dive forward and at least attempt to take the catch. And that shot kind of reminded me of that wild hoik he played against Shadab Khan in the Champions Trophy final. I appreciate that he's a guy who really likes to stamp his authority on the bowling, but when it doesn't come off, it looks ugly. And certainly if he keeps doing that kind of thing, then it will certainly become a real issue, but still not quite enough information on him to really get a good read. But Virat Kohli, now I thought this was very interesting that he demoted himself to five. Obviously, KL Rahul and Kedar Jadhav didn't bat in the first game. He wanted to give them a go. The opening stand was 109, and I don't think anyone could have said that the result was in doubt, even when that first wicket fell. But what transpired made Kohli look very, very silly. And I must say, even given the fact that India were able to win this game, this was a complacent move from Virat Kohli. The fact that he demoted himself, the king of the chase, because they thought, we're going to win so easily, so we'll just give these other guys a go. Now, admittedly, I think they were pretty right to think that they would win very comfortably, but still, to make that kind of move, it's complacent. And who knows if that fired up the Sri Lankans, thinking they're not taking it seriously, so they really were energized by that. Who knows? I didn't like it from Kohli. Obviously, he's a wonderful captain, but I think this was really a poor decision from him. They've been ruthless this whole tour. This was the first time they showed complacency. And again, it's difficult to blame them considering how easy it's been. But I think you still have to be a consummate professional. And Kohli demoting himself, I don't think was a good signal. And I would imagine that he would have learned from this because when India lost 7 for 22, he must have been absolutely fearing the worst, what the press would say after he demoted himself. So he got away with that one, Virat Kohli. So definitely, I don't think we'll see him doing that again. Now his batting itself, it was an interesting innings. First ball, long hop, hit to the boundary. Second ball, clean bowled once again. Couldn't pick the wrong one from Dhananjaya. Now Hardik Pandya, this was a very poor shot from Hardik Pandya, stumped again to another wrong one from Akhil Dhananjaya. And he just lasted 3 deliveries. Hardik Pandya did not trouble the scores. Now this is where I say he needs to become a more refined player. He's got a lot of talent, but still he's not quite there as an elite international player. Obviously, he hasn't played a lot and it will come with experience, but he does need some refinement. Given the situation, given the fact that India have lost 5 wickets for basically nothing, the required run rate is really not an issue. Surely you could consolidate for even a couple of overs. Yes, Hardik's a counter-attacking guy, but really this shot was uncalled for and he completely misread the delivery anyway, which made him look even sillier. So yeah, Hardik Pandya, still a player in need of refinement. Akshar Patel obviously has all-round capabilities, but he did not show them off in this game with the bat. He only managed 6 LBW to an off-spinner from Dhananjaya, just didn't spin and he played all around it. Akshar Patel, obviously difficult to read into this too much. It's his first innings since his comeback into the team, Akshar Patel, but we know that he can bat. We have seen it in the IPL, and I think in this game, he was just unable to get away from the momentum. I think the Indian batsmen on the whole, I was quite amazed how none of them were picking the wrong end. The ball that came out from Dhananjaya, it looks like just a regular wrong end, and none of them picked it. It was quite amazing to see, and it was quite amazing that they were all getting out the same way, basically, I thought. India, I think they just got into a bit of a panic, and that's what can happen sometimes when you lose a lot of wickets really quickly. Your head goes as a batsman. I think some of their batsmen definitely fell prey to that. But certainly, India, this is a big wake up call for their batting, and they'll need to be a lot better, particularly against better opposition, if they're going to be the best ODI team in the world. Obviously, at the moment, they're virtually unbeatable in test matches, but ODIs, they're still not quite there yet, so they do need some improvement. But the real two that saved them with that brilliant 100-run stand were Mahendra Singh Dhoni and Bhuvneshwar Kumar. Wow, this was fantastic batting from them. MS doing what he does, 45 of 68 guarding the chase, and Bhuvneshwar Kumar, 53 of 80. Now, this was his first ODI 50. Bear in mind, he has 3 Test 50s to his name. He averages over 20 in Test match cricket, so he is certainly no slouch with the bat. And once again, the fact that you have a guy at 9 who can bat is such a valuable thing. And I think it really showed in this game the difference between the Sri Lankan tail and the India tail. I think the way Bhuvneshwar went about it was really good. At one point, he was 14 of 48, I think, but he really accelerated once he got in. The way he picked Dhananjaya was excellent. None of the batsmen were picking his wrong one, but Bhuvneshwar was able to pick it really well. So I thought that was excellent from him. And as I said, hopefully that confidence now goes into his bowling for the next game because he hasn't quite been at his best with the ball. Now, MS Dhoni, he's been under a bit of criticism. The spotlight's been on him Is he going to be around for the 2019 World Cup? Well, this was a classic MS performance. Really, when he's there, you know that India always have a chance. He's so calm. I thought it was amazing after the win. It was almost like they'd lost. The way he reacted to it, it was amazing. That's how ice cool he is, MS Dhoni. The way he just milked it around. He only hit one boundary, but he didn't need to hit boundaries because the required rate was never above a run a ball. He just played the situation to perfection here, MS Dhoni. Wonderful innings. And I think what's important to note about Dhoni is that despite all the criticism, he averages 71 in ODIs this year. 71. That's incredible for a guy that's been under this much criticism, and I have criticized him as well. I think a lot of that is to do with a few innings that have really been a bit average. Like there was that 54 not out that he made off 114 in that loss against the West Indies. That was a real struggle for MS. And then there was the failure in the Champions Trophy final against Pakistan. There was also another laboured innings in an ODI against England early in the year. So there have been a few innings where you've seen signs of deterioration, but on the whole, he's still a very valuable asset to India. He's so experienced, still a good keeper. And the thing is, as well, the replacements aren't really there. Dinesh Karthik is 32. He's never really been amazing at the international level. Rishabh Pant, probably not ready. And KL Rahul is a part-time keeper. So I don't think the replacements are there for Dhoni anyway. And he is still performing well. Yes, he may not be at his peak. He is past his peak. He's not the same MS that we saw at the start of his career, who could almost hit sixes at will. I think his boundary hitting ability is on the wane. But he's still so invaluable to the team. I was wrong. I've been thinking, wow, does he really deserve a place? But I think this innings really told me he absolutely does. So well done to MS Dhoni for really rubbing it in the critics' faces. And yeah, that's it for the Indian batting. Now onto the Sri Lankan bowling. And well, there's only one place to start. Akila Dhananjaya, what a spell of bowling this was. 6 for 54, including 5 wickets in the space of 13 overs. Wow. This was the performance that rejuvenated Sri Lanka. They were lively in the field. It was a complete contrast to what we saw, the body language in the test match. Shoulders drop, heads down, just walking around really slowly. They were up and about here. They were running around the place, shouting, screaming. That's the energy that Sri Lanka need to play with. So hopefully, despite not being able to win this game, they can take that confidence, the energy from this performance and translate that into the next games. Amazing from Dhananjaya. Interestingly enough, the last ODI he played was the 5th ODI against Zimbabwe. He took a 4-for in that one, and then he was dropped for the first ODI against India. Once again, the selection policy mind-boggling. The guy took 4 wickets. How can he not be in the team for the next 2? I understand there was a test series between them, but nonetheless, madness for me. If you have a look at the guys who are playing, obviously we know about Thisara Pereira's struggles. Wanindu Hasaranga, he's played 5 ODIs. I think the consensus is he's really talented, but he's still not quite ready, just a little bit raw. And also, Sandakan, I think obviously he struggled a lot, and India really looked to punish him. Also, I think the dew factor at Pallakela was an issue, but I would have still given him a go because, again, bringing him in for one game and taking him out, that's what they've really done with Sandakan, the selectors, throughout his short career. How is that going to help his confidence? I really don't understand. But anyway, getting a bit sidetracked there, back to Dhananjaya. I really liked the way he bowled. Obviously, he's an off-spinner. If you look at any kind of statistical site like Cricinfo, or if you look at the TV broadcast, he's listed as an off-spinner. But he barely bowled an off-break. 4 of the wickets were with a wrong-un, and 1 was with a leg spinner, 1 was with an off-spinner. But most of his wickets were with leg breaks. And that was very interesting. I've talked about how leg spin is superior to finger spin in ODIs nowadays. And this was a perfect example of that again. The wrong-uns that he bowled, the leg spinners that he bowled, very traditional. There's no real mystery about it in the sense of the way it comes out of the hand. It's a very classical grip for the googly and for the leg break. But I think it's just the fact that the batsman thinks in his mind, this guy is an off-spinner. But no, he's bowling leg breaks and googlies. So I think that was the thing that really got the Indian batsman. And I thought his control was excellent. And the way he was able to outfox the batsman, I thought, it showed that he was thinking. And to have that kind of mental maturity, I think is a real big thing, given the guy's barely played ODI cricket. This is just his fourth ODI. So, sorry, I don't think fourth ODI. I think it was his fourth or fifth, I'm not sure, but very, very young career. And to already have that ability to just completely outfox the batsman, to set them up and get them already, is a great sign. And this is a guy that Sri Lanka have to persist with now. Obviously has to play the rest of the series. When I look at the ODI bowling, it's pretty toothless. It lacks penetration. This was a breath of fresh air. You have to pick him. He's still 23 years old. He's young. And really, this could be Sri Lanka's new mystery spinner. Obviously, that's always been the big thing around Sri Lankan cricket. They always have a spinner who has some unorthodox deliveries. Maybe Dhananjaya can be the guy. I don't really consider him a mystery spinner because he's bowling very traditional deliveries, releasing them in a very traditional way. But hey, the kind of variations he have obviously poses a threat to the batsmen. So certainly a big bright spot for the Sri Lankan team. Now, looking at the rest of the bowlers, I think Milinda Siriwardena did a good job, 1 for 39. I don't think he's a particularly great bowler, and I think part of the reason he was so economical was the fact that India were rebuilding for a lot of the time that he was bowling, and also obviously the required run rate was never really in sort of any sort of dangerous territory for the Indians. But when you compare him to Thisara Pereira, he's better than Thisara Pereira. As I said, he's not an amazing bowler, and I think he gets wickets partly due to the fact that, again, he's a part-time batsman, underestimate him. They really switch off, I guess, and he does get the odd wicket, but I think his batting is clearly better than Thisara Pereira. So again, persist with him, I say. Now, Dushmantha Chamira, he was once again poor. He went for over 6 and over, didn't look like taking a wicket. In his last 5 ODIs, he's taken 1 wicket. That is not good enough in anyone's book. And this is why I thought Sundakan should have had a go. Chamira in the recent series against Zimbabwe was poor. 1 wicket in 4 games. Why was he brought in for Sundakan? I don't understand that. I really don't. Yes, Sundakan had a poor game, but 1 poor game, the guy's shown match-winning ability. You've got to give him some time. So once again, I thought this was a poor selection. And unfortunately, Dushmantha Chamira, despite all the talent, hasn't really kicked on. Obviously had that big stress factor of the back that certainly put his development a little bit behind. But when I look at him as a bowler, he is quick, but he doesn't have a lot of control, and he doesn't do anything with the ball. So it's really kind of easy pickings for the batsman, particularly in ODI cricket on good pitches to bat on. So I really don't see him as a long-term player in the Sri Lankan ODI team. Now, Vishwa Fernando, I thought he bowled again pretty decently. He only went for 5 and 0, which compared to the other 2 pacers was good. And he was very unlucky not to get MS Dhoni chopping back onto the stumps, but the ball hit the base of the stumps. The bails were not dislodged. I've seen that happen a few times, obviously, when it does hit the base of the stumps at a reasonably slow velocity, then you will see the bails not fall, but desperately unlucky for Sri Lanka. There were still 60 runs needed then. If Dhoni was out there, I think that would have been the game for Sri Lanka. They haven't had a lot of luck in this whole tour. They haven't won any of the tosses. There's been all these injuries, and now some bizarre dismissals, unlucky stuff with the ball as well. They haven't really had the best of luck. As I said, when you're playing a clearly superior team, you need a bit of luck, and Sri Lanka have simply not had that. But Vishwa, again, was able to get the ball through pretty decently. Still doesn't quite have the control, but he creates a good angle. Obviously, the left arm adds some good variety. Again, I think he should be persisted with. I think he's someone that definitely can do something. Obviously, still needs a lot of refinement, but the raw tools are there for Vishwa Fernando. Now, Lasith Malinga once again didn't look like taking a wicket, went for over 6 runs and over. And really, is he ever going to get to this 300 wicket landmark? I think India, it almost seems like their goal to make sure he doesn't get to it in this series. Now, Lasith Malinga, we know how amazing he has been for Sri Lanka over the years. You cannot question the contribution he has made, but right now, he doesn't deserve a place in the 11. Since his comeback this year in ODIs, right, he's played 11 games, and he's taken 7 wickets at an average of 68 and an economy rate of 6 runs and over. That is very poor in anyone's book. Yes, he has been unlucky. I think there's been 8 or 9 drop catches of his bowling in those games, but still, if you watch any of these games, you'll see that Malinga is nowhere near the threat that he once was, which is very disappointing to see. Obviously, he's lost pace and that unrelenting accuracy that he had. The Yorker is just not deadly anymore. He's not really getting that bouncer up either at all anymore. And he's really reliant on the slower ball cutter. And even that's just to keep the runs down. It's not really a wicket taking delivery for him. So, unfortunately, I think we're seeing the terminal decline of a great of the game. It's a tricky situation for Sri Lanka because they lost so many experienced players. Malinga does have that experience. He's a very smart cricketer. You wouldn't think it necessarily looking at him, but he's got a very good cricketing brain, and I'm sure would add invaluable experience and know-how to the team. But is that enough to justify his place? Because honestly, he's not doing it with the ball, and we know he's a liability in the field, and he can't do anything with the bat now. Now in his old age, he really doesn't have anything to offer with the bat. So it's a real tricky situation for Sri Lanka with Malinga. The other problem is that there aren't really any fast bowlers knocking down the door to be selected in front of him. So really, Sri Lanka's in a tricky situation. I would hope that Malinga would realise he's on really a terminal decline and announce his retirement. I can't see him being dropped from Sri Lanka, but hopefully he sees the way things are going and he retires and really adds some respectability, because I think being dropped and then ending your career wouldn't be a great look. But to retire, to have a big party for him in his last game, I think would be a great thing. So I actually hope that that's what happens with Lasith Malinga. But yes, that's it for this game from me. For India, as I said, a wake-up call with the bat, and they'll certainly, I think Kohli will not be as complacent as he was, and I'm sure that they'll be looking at some film on Akila Dhananjaya to be able to pick those googlies, will the batsman. And for Sri Lanka, well, I think this was a good game for them. Obviously, the issue was the lack of penetration from bowlers other than Dhananjaya, and so really when he was not bowling, India were really able to have their way with the other Sri Lankan bowlers. But I think this game should give some confidence to the team, and hopefully we can see that translate into better performances, because at the end of the day, there are good players in this team. They're underperforming so much, and there's a number of reasons for that I've talked about before. But one of them is just the fact that they're losing so heavily. And that's one of the reasons why when Bhuvneshwar and Dhoni got away a little bit, the heads drop quickly. When you're a losing team, you can lose confidence really quickly. I think we saw that in this game. But one other thing I want to talk about is the way Upul Taranga handled Dhananjaya. Obviously, he took 6 wickets in his first 6 overs, then he went wicketless for another 2, and then he was taken off. Now, I think that was a terrible decision from Upul Taranga. All the momentum was with Sri Lanka, and yes, he hadn't taken a wicket for a couple of overs. I understand that. But you're ahead of the game. Why bring him back when India have built a partnership and the batsmen have their eye in? It doesn't make sense. And when he came back, he had lost that rhythm. There weren't the men around the bat like there were before. It just boggled the mind, really, from Upul Taranga. If he bowls out there and he doesn't take a wicket, that's fine. But the right option there is to let him bowl out his 10 overs there while you're right on top. Go for the kill while the batsmen are trying to settle in. I think that was a big mistake from Sri Lanka, and really one of the big reasons why it was really quite comfortable for India in the end, despite what looked like a really disastrous situation for them, needing 100 more with just the 3 wickets intact. But yes, that is it from this game. For me, the next game is tomorrow, Sunday, and once again, we will be at Palakela, India looking to wrap up the series, and Sri Lanka looking to build on this and get their first win of the tour. I think for India, I would expect maybe a change given the batting the way it was. I wouldn't be surprised if they kept it the same. They looked to win this game and then they made changes in the last 2 games. For Sri Lanka, there's going to be some enforced changes to the team. Danushka Gunatilaka, he picked up a shoulder injury in the field. Sri Lanka just can't catch a break with these injuries. Yet another man going down due to injury. And so he has been replaced by Lahiru Thirimana, who will open the batting with Niroshan Dickwella for the rest of the series. This is Thirimana's first ODI game now since the 5th of January last year. So he's been out of the team for a long time. To be fair to Thirimana, he actually wasn't in bad ODI form. He was just dropped from all formats because of his shocking test form. But he actually has quite a good ODI record. He's got an average of 34, which is not bad, especially for Sri Lanka. He has got hundreds at this level. He's played over 100 games, and he averages 38 as an opener for Sri Lanka in ODI. So it's interesting to see him. Obviously, he hasn't been in great form in domestic cricket, but given the fact that this is more of a stopgap pick just for a couple of games here before Gunatilaka is back fit, I like it. Rather than blooding in a new player just to play a couple of games and then he's straight back out again, give someone who already has experience at the international level, who's already been given opportunities, another chance. I like that from the selectors. And the other enforced change is going to be obviously Upul Taranga. He's suspended for the next 2 games, and Dinesh Chandimal has been brought in to bat at number 4. This was really a no-brainer. Dinesh Chandimal has been Sri Lanka's number 4 for a while until he was dropped, obviously, for the Zimbabwe series. And for Dinesh Chandimal again, he hasn't been great this year in ODI cricket, although he was fantastic last year in ODI cricket, but he hasn't been in great form in general this year across formats. So this is a chance for him to redeem himself, a chance for him to get back into the one-day team, because when he wasn't picked for this series, it looked like he might be on the outer for a while now. So once again, like I said with Tirimana, with a stopgap selection like this just for 2 games, better to bring someone in who has experience than blood in a young player and just 2 games and you're straight back out again into the wilderness. I don't think that's the way to go about it. So once again, I think an obvious decision, admittedly, but a good one from the Sri Lankan selectors. And as I said, Chamara Kapagedera will be the captain. It's quite unbelievable, really. As I said, a guy who doesn't really warrant a place in the team is the captain. Such is the state of the captaincy situation with Sri Lanka. But that's it, obviously. I look forward to the third ODI tomorrow. Now, the last thing I want to talk about today is the World 11 series in Pakistan. Some news on that. Those games have been confirmed to be taking place on September the 12th, the 13th, and the 15th. Now, the thing I love about this is that that's a window. There's no other international cricket being played in that 4-day stretch. The India-Sri Lanka tour will be over. The Australia-Bangladesh tour will be over. And there's a break between the Test series and the limited overs leg of the England-West Indies series in that time. So that's going to be the only international cricket that we see for that week, which is fantastic. All the eyes of the cricketing world are going to be on that game. It has been given international status as well. And to be fair, the World 11 team probably deserves that recognition. Now, I am pleasantly surprised by the quality of the World 11 team. I thought this was just going to be some players from the smaller countries and ex-international players who are retired. But on the whole, these are good players. Yes, it's not the World 11 in the truest sense, but there's some pretty good players in this team. Faf du Plessis, the best captain, arguably, in world cricket, will lead the team. Hashim Amla, an elite batsman at the Test level, particularly, and also the one-day level, and the 2020 level. He scored 2 centuries in the last edition of the IPL. Samuel Badri, obviously an excellent leg spinner in 2020s. George Bailey, obviously a seasoned campaigner. Paul Collingwood, amazingly, making a return. He's 42 years old, I believe, so that'll certainly be interesting seeing how Paul Collingwood is after many years after being retired from international cricket. Ben Cutting, we know, a decent all-rounder in the 2020 game. Grant Elliott, obviously, has retired from international cricket, but we know he's a very capable player as well. Tommy Iqbal, one of the elite openers in world cricket. David Miller, obviously an explosive 2020 batsman. Morne Morkul, fantastic fast bowler. Tim Payne, good wicketkeeper batsman, and definitely in the 2020 game, a really solid player. Tisera Pereira, obviously, pretty much a 2020 specialist. And Imran Tahir, arguably the best 2020 spinner in the world, arguably the best limited overs spinner in the world. And Darren Sammy, really a fan favourite. Obviously, he did play in the PSL final, so I think it's nice touch that he is there as well. The thing I like about this is that there is a broad range of countries being represented. You've got South Africans, you've got Australians, you got an English player, you got a Kiwi, you got Australians, Sri Lankan, West Indians. So that's really good. Bangladeshi. So most of the big cricketing nations are represented there, and I think that's excellent. I think this team looks actually pretty good. Obviously, it's going to be difficult for them given the fact that they're going to have very little time to prepare, to build team chemistry. But nonetheless, I think it'll be a decent series. And as I said before, this series isn't so much about the cricket. It's really about the off the field, for the fans, and for the cricketing world praying that this goes off without a hitch. So I really look forward to this series, and it's going to be fantastic. What about Pakistan? I think they must be buzzing that this quality of team is going to come to them. They've also named their squad, interestingly enough, changes from the last 2020 series that they played. That was against the West Indies. Now, Kamran Akmal is out, so is Wahab Riaz, Sohail Tanvir. They're all the wrong side of 30. And Mohamed Hafiz, now this is the one that I don't really agree with. Mohamed Hafiz, especially after his last international innings, was that amazing cameo in the Champions Trophy final, a blitzkrieg from Mohamed Hafiz. Not to mention that he's a very, very useful off spinner and an experienced guy who has leadership qualities. How is he not there? But Ahmed Shahzad is there. Ahmed Shahzad is a guy who I don't know how he still plays for Pakistan. This guy is not a great player. He just has constantly flattered to deceive. There's always been question marks about his fielding and his fitness as well. I just don't understand that at all. But hey, it is Pakistan. There's always some kind of controversy in Pakistan. Another one who's not there, speaking of controversy, is Umar Akmal. He's had a bit of a rift with Mickey Arthur. He's talked about how Mickey Arthur has not treated him properly, and there's this big investigation going on. For me, I can't really judge it. It's all talk at the moment. There's no evidence. At the end of the day, Umar Akmal is a guy who has not fulfilled his potential, and that's how I look at it. He's had big fitness issues throughout his career. He's just never become a refined player, always been a bit of a thrasher with the bat. So, hey, at the end of the day, I don't have a great deal of sympathy for Umar Akmal, but hopefully that issue does get ironed out. But in terms of who's come into the squad, obviously, Muhammad Amir comes back in. He was rested for that series against the West Indies. Sohail Khan returns, hasn't played a T20 since 2014. Now, we all know about Sohail Khan's fitness issues, but surely he's okay to bowl 4 overs in a 2020. And we have seen that also he can definitely wield the willow, hit some meaty blows. He got a 50 in the Boxing Day test, if you do remember last year. Now, the other incomings are Fahim Ashraf, obviously played against Sri Lanka in the Champions Trophy, all-rounder. Another all-rounder they've brought in is Amir Yamin, and also they've brought in Umar Amin, the batsman. So Pakistan trying some new players, although Umar Amin has played a decent amount of cricket for Pakistan. But definitely, this is going to be a very exciting series. I look forward to it, and I hope everything goes well. But that does conclude the podcast for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can check it out. We're on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. All those links can be found on the Twitter page. But that is it for me today. And as always, thanks for listening, and I'll see you later.